Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Paul, and in this video I'm actually going to be talking about a book that I read that actually spawned my awakening, called The Four Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. So in this book there are four agreements, and it's a book based off of Tolic wisdom passed down verbally through centuries. And Don Miguel Ruiz actually had made the decision to share this wisdom with the world. And the four agreements are: one, be impeccable with your word; two, don't take anything personally; three, don't assume anything; and four, always do your best. And they seem like simple rules, but if you follow these agreements and actually use them in your life and change the way that you think and change the way you believe and change the way that you do things, your life will begin to be a lot easier. So when I went through my breakup back in 2016, it was in the summertime. I had wound up walking up into Bidwell Park in Buffalo, New York, and I had made a decision to grow from that experience. And when I had made that decision, it took me a moment, this was like a couple of weeks after it had happened. I had gone down and saw my parents in Pennsylvania, and I'd come back to Buffalo, and I always find like peace in parks, and lucky enough for me, Buffalo is inside of a park. And Bidwell Park, it's really pretty. There's a lot of pretty houses, and I go up there a lot to think when I used to live up there. And I had thought and made that decision to enlighten myself. And as I was walking down Bidwell Park after I'd made that decision, I ran into a friend, ironically, who worked with me at a local restaurant in downtown Buffalo. And she asked me if I wanted to come back to her house and hang out with her and her boyfriend, and I did, and we were discussing what had gone on, and she gave me the four agreements. And I had opened it, read a couple of pieces of it, and I was like, okay, I'll read it. Whatever, didn't think much of it. Oh my God, literally, it was amazing. It was literally amazing. And it's not hard to adopt these philosophies, because for the majority of us, it's what we're taught. So the first one is being impeccable with your word. Being impeccable with your word, meaning only use your word for kindness and love. Because your words are like magic, is how he likes to say it. You can say something to somebody, and if they accept your words, they'll place it as a belief. I believe the example that he used was this little girl who always used to sing, and one time the mother was overworked and overtired, and she was just spent, and she snapped on her daughter for singing. She's like, "Shut up. You sound terrible," or something awful. She'd taken on that belief as her own. And unfortunately, as time went on, she had never sang. And she had a beautiful voice, but because what her mother had said, she took that as a deep belief that she could not sing. Even though she really could sing and she had a beautiful voice, she truly believed that she could not sing. And that's where words are magic, and you have to only use your words for kindness and love. Because if you say something bad to somebody and they take that and they accept that, they, unfortunately, it's like a weed, and weeds take over. And if you want to use it as a metaphor for your mind, you don't want weeds growing in your mind when you could have beautiful flowers. And same thing for something good. If you say something like, "You are a beautiful singer," and they take that and they believe it, and they are, beautiful things can happen. So always be impeccable with your word. Mean what you say, and only do it for kindness and love, because what you say can really have an effect on people. The second agreement was don't take anything personally. And for me, that was really the most difficult one for me to swallow because in this society that we live in, it's very victim based and very, he did this to me and he made me feel awful and he's a horrible person for doing that. And in all reality, it's like, no, it's a projection of his own his self inadequacies, and he or she is projecting that onto you. And you can't take that personally because that's just garbage coming out of them. And it's also an indicator of where they are in their mind. And taking things personally doesn't get you anywhere. It just leaves you hurt and it leaves you in a lower vibration. And if you can learn to have a tough skin, which I consider a tough skin just being not taking things personally, you will excel in life. You will do so much better in life. And taking things personally, like I said, was the most difficult one for me to take on, because there's that whole belief system that I had to undo in my mind. Like I mentioned in other videos, like that ping pong match, I had to honestly take that and be like, okay, like how do I not take something personally? And when I'm constantly getting bombarded by things, like you're working for me, I was working in a school and someone comes in and starts screaming at you and just slamming you and just trying to make you feel awful. My initial response, is to get angry as well, like to match their level and to give them what they're giving me. And in all reality, it was usually a mother who was hurt emotionally. Something, maybe something's not going on at home, or maybe there's a lot going on in her personal life, or maybe there is issues going on with that teacher and that child, and I just happened to be the person that was there when she came in and she had enough. So not taking an angry mother personally also helps that mother, because if you are at a higher vibration and you can then de-escalate a situation because you're not taking it personally and you're seeing that she's just a hurt individual and she's just projecting just negativity at you because that's where she is in her mind, you have an opportunity then to help her out in a better frame of mind. So not taking anything personally was the second rule, and that's, like I said, was the hardest one for me to take. But I did, and you still have your moments, but it's a very good one. The third agreement is to not assume. Like, don't assume anything, because you know what they say, like, assuming makes an ass out of you and me, right? So when you take on the philosophy of not assuming, then you don't set yourself up for failure, because there's what he likes to call it is there's stories, right, that you create in your mind to help you get through the day, right? So everything that you do involves a story. You're telling yourself something in your mind. So, okay, so a good one to use would be like text messaging, right? Someone sends you a text message, and this is why I really don't like text messaging, but if someone sends you a text message and it's one of those open-ended ones, they didn't put the LOL, they didn't put the smiley face, they didn't use an emoji, and it's kind of blunt. If you're a person who takes things personally, you're going to assume sometimes that that message was negative and that they said it in a nasty connotation and that it was an attack on you, when in all reality it was just a simple text message, just being blunt, and it had nothing nasty about it. It was just a text message, but you assumed that it was a bad text message. You assumed that they were being nasty with you, and you then told yourself a story and that this person sent this message with a negative belief, with a negative connotation to it. I know this person. I know that they would do something like this. I know that it was an attack. And what you do is you're lowering your vibration, you're taking it personally, and you're assuming something. And then you find out it wasn't the case. And it was genuinely not the case. And then you realize that you just wasted all that energy and all of that time on a story and a scenario that wasn't even real. And you could have saved yourself that. So number 3 is don't assume anything. The 4th one is to always do your best. Now, by that, what he had said, again, he uses that story that you tell yourself these stories, right? And the voice of knowledge, which is one of his other books, but that voice of knowledge, that voice, that inner dialogue that you have, likes to judge you at times, likes to tell you that you didn't do good enough. You should have done this, you should have done that, you could have done this better, maybe you should have tweaked this a little bit. If you go through life always doing your best, you can silence that voice of knowledge. You can silence that negative voice that comes to judge you, because you can then change your story and tell yourself, no, I literally did my best. I literally did my best. And that's all I can do. And that usually silences that voice in your mind. So that book literally changed my life. It was the first book that I read. I didn't go through the awakening process, or maybe looking back, maybe that was like I was going through it. I didn't really fully acknowledge my awakening until October of 2017. And at this point, this was September, late August, early September of 2016. And it took me a while to adjust, because when I read this book, I didn't just consume this book. I read this book and I told myself that these are really good philosophies, these are really good words to live by, and if I can adjust and modify my life to these agreements, I will have a more peaceful life. And I did. And it truly did. It really did change my life. And from that came so many more things. And yeah, I really liked that book. I recommend that book to every single human being on this planet. It is a very easy read. It does not ask you to do crazy things. It's not out of the realm of how we were even brought up. It's just practicality. He simplified it. He used really good scenarios, and I recommend that book. So I think you should read that book. And that was the very first book that that helped me go through my awakening process. So I know this video is a little different than the other ones, but something told me to do something on the 4 agreements, and I really like that book. So again, the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word, don't take anything personally, don't assume anything, and always do your best. Book is by Don Miguel Ruiz. All right, guys, that's it for today. I'll see you in my next video. Make sure you like, comment, tell me what you think about it, if you like this video, and I'll see you in the next video. All right, bye, guys.